So good day everyone. Today I'll be discussing extortion and plagiarism as unethical practices in the workplace. So this presentation will cover their definitions, characteristics, real-world examples, preventions and strategies, and case studies to show how these issues can actually happen inside organization. So extortion is the act of obtaining money, property, or any benefit through threats, force, or intimidation. So these threats can involve a person's safety, their family, their property, their reputation, or even their financial well-being. It is considered illegal even if the victim appears to agree because that agreement is made under duress, or meaning pressure. So even if someone says yes, if they feel forced, it is still not a real consent. Extortion has several key characteristics. First is the threat or intimidation, which can be direct or implied. Second is there is an abuse of authority, where someone uses their position or power to gain something. Third is coercion, meaning the victim feels they have no real choice. And lastly is there's no genuine consent, because the decision is based on fear or pressure. So these elements shows that extortion is not just about money, it is about control. In the workplace, extortion can happen in different ways. So one example is bribed silence, where a security officer demands payment to ignore wrongdoings or keeping quiet. Another is commission coercion, where a manager pressures staff to share illegal commissions or kickbacks. There is also a vendor pressure, where educators demand referral fees from suppliers in exchange for endorsements. And lastly is silencing whistleblowers, where someone is threatened or forced to stay quiet unless they are paid. So these examples shows how power can be misused for personal benefit. Let's go now to the case study of Winnie, the textbook publisher. So in this case, Winnie supplies textbook to schools. However, several teachers and administrators pressured her to give 10% of the book price just to get or keep endorsements. Extortion nga ba siyang matatawag? Yes, because the payment was made due to pressured and implied threat of losing sales or damaging her reputations. Key indicators include power imbalance, coerced payment, and lack of voluntary agreement. So these situations shows how such practices can become normal and lead to systematic corruption and legal risks for both individual and institutions. To prevent extortions, organizations need strong and clear systems. First is leadership and culture, where leaders set zero tolerance policy and show visible disciplinary action. Second is the policy enforcement, where rulers clearly define extortion as a serious offense. Third is controls, such as regular audits, lifestyle checks, and transparent procurement process. And lastly is a safe reporting system, where employees can report issues confidentially without fear of retaliation. Because if people are afraid to report, the problem will continue. Let's go now to plagiarism. Plagiarism is the act of presenting another person's words, ideas, or creative work as your own without proper attribution. It is considered intellectual dishonesty because it undermines trust, damages reputations, and can even lead to legal contractual problems. In the workplace, plagiarism can take several forms. Una na dito yung uncited quotes, where someone uses exact or slightly edited text without giving credit. Another is copied documentation, such as duplicating manuals or templates from another organization. There is also a design and branding plagiarism, where slogans, logos, or campaigns are copied. And lastly is the media misuse, where photos, videos, or other creative materials are used without proper permission or license. So these actions may seem small, but they can seriously affect credibility. To prevent plagiarism, organizations use several strategies. First is the detection tools to check reports and materials. Second is the review and editing processes to verify sources before publication. Third is training programs to educate employees about proper citations and intellectual property rights. Additional measures include keeping clear records of ownerships and licenses using templates that require attribution, and enforcing consequences for violations. Because giving proper credit is simple but important responsibility. Sa case study naman ng Pilipinas kay Ganda is, in this case, a national tourism logo has received a public criticism because it looked very similar to another country's design. Although it was described as an inspiration, many people saw it as copying. The public reaction was fast and negative, showing how reputational damage can happen quickly. There are also possible legal branding risks such as disputes and the need for costly design. So from these organizations can learn to conduct originality checks, document sources of inspiration, and secure proper licenses. Include even smaller unintentional actions related to extortion and plagiarism can lead to serious consequence. These practices damage trust, create legal risk, and harm organizations' reputations. That is why organizations must build strong system, promote ethical behavior, and treat integrity as priority. Because once trust is lost, it is very difficult to regain.